Hi, I'm Teresa and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming my May wrap-up, and can we just take a moment to celebrate that this is the last video I will be filming in Spain with this background. We'll be back to my rainbow shelves very soon. I have one more video I've already filmed for you, sapphic reads though, so you know it'll be worth it. And yeah, so May wasn't my best reading month. I had a couple deadlines, an exam, I was a bit busy with schoolwork, finishing off work. But I did manage to read 5 books and I'm going to talk to you about them all today. So the first book I read was actually for my adult romance reading vlog, so I'll leave that link down below if you want more in-depth thoughts on this book. And that book was Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellfleur. As I mentioned, this is an adult sapphic romance, and this follows Elle and Darcy. Elle is very much a hopeless romantic. She believes in astrology. She is just very light-hearted. And then she goes on this blind date set up by her new co-worker with his sister, Darcy. And Darcy is the opposite. She is very refined, she doesn't believe in love anymore. She and Elle are just complete, total opposites. And the date goes disastrously. But Darcy tells her brother it goes well to try and get him off her back because she is sick of him setting her up on blind dates. And then Elle gets roped into pretending this fake relationship with Darcy. It'll serve them both. But of course, as always happens in these scenarios, feelings start to develop and their insane chemistry that from their first night continues as they get to know each other better. And I really loved this book. It was so fun. It's probably my favourite from the vlog. And you guys, my friends, have been telling me for ages to read this book. So I'm glad I finally have and I loved it. I will be continuing the series. There's 2 spin-off books following different characters from this series, from this book. And yes, I just loved them as individual characters. I love the dynamic of the kind of grumpy sunshine, hopeless romantic cynic, that kind of vibe, the fake dating trope. I'm sometimes a bit iffy about it. I feel like it's overdone, but here I really enjoyed it and I thought it worked really well with the story and the characters. I really enjoyed the banter, the humour. It was definitely a rom-com and it was just a whole lot of fun. I definitely recommend you pick it up if you're looking for something light-hearted and easy to read and also a bitty steamy. It's a really good fun book. I really recommend it and enjoyed it. Next up, I read the Nick and Charlie novella by Alice Oseman. As you may know, the Heartstopper TV show came out in April, the end of April. I watched it, I loved it, and as we got into May, I was still thinking about Nick and Charlie and Heartstopper, so I decided I would finally read this novella. I listened to the audiobook and I so completely recommend you do that because the voices for Nick and Charlie, they have 2 different narrators. They're so good, they got such emotion in their voices, especially there's a fight scene. And wow. The 2 Heartstopper novellas are available as audiobooks on Scribd, which is how I listen to it, and I have a little referral code in the description. If you would like to join, you'll get a month free and I'll get a month free. Anyway, this follows Nick and Charlie after the events of Heartstopper as Nick is gearing up to leave school, and the 2 of them have a bit of a falling out over this, worries about going long distance, all the usual stuff, and it's just short, it's sweet, but also very angsty. And I just really enjoyed it. I loved getting to read about these characters in prose rather than in graphic novel form, and I just thought it was really fun getting this peek into their relationship in the future. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. There's not much I can say without like going in depth about Heartstopper, which I feel like I've done a lot on my channel recently. If you do want to see me go in depth, then I recommend checking out my Heartstopper review, which I'll also leave linked down below. But yes, this was a good fun time. It's a novella, it's super short. I listened to it in one sitting and had a brilliant time. Really enjoyed it. I thought the character work in this book was so well done. Love seeing these characters again. Really enjoyed it, 4 stars. Next up, I reread 7 Devils and then read the sequel 7 Mercies by Laura Lamb and Elizabeth May. I read 7 Devils before its release in 2020, so quite a while ago now, and I had an arc of the second book, so I did a bit of a reread because I did not remember it at all, and I ended up really enjoying my reread of 7 Devils. So this is a sci-fi space opera book, and you follow a ragtag team of rebels who take on the corrupt Thalassian Empire. You've got Chloe, a mechanic, Eris, the lost heir to the Empire, believed dead by everyone, but is taking on a new role and trying to bring down the Empire. You've got 3 refugees from the Empire that they come across, a courtesan with mysterious powers, an ex-soldier, and the little girl that's been running the AI that controls the population. And the 5 of them come together to try and stop the Empire from being the Empire and being horrible and corrupt and evil. And there's this lovely, lovely found family dynamic between them, between everyone in the Resistance, and I love it, and I love getting to see that develop in this book and then continue into the sequel. And the sequel follows them after events of the first book. I can't give a synopsis because spoilers, but it does actually include 2 more point of views, so there's 7 total, which is very impressive. And yes, these are big, multi-perspective adult sci-fi novels, and I'm just in awe of how the authors manage all these perspectives. They have the present timeline and flashbacks from some of the characters to previous timelines, especially Eris, our lost heir, and it's just so well done. The characters are so well written. I love them all as individuals and their individual development and what we learn about them through these past chapters, as well as then their relationships in the present. There's a sapphic relationship as well, which I really, really enjoyed, of course, because I'm me. And I just also really enjoyed the world building in this book and how it's explained, because I was quite nervous going into it originally when I read it, because it is adult sci-fi and I struggle with sci-fi and I thought adults is going to make it so much more difficult. But no, the world building was so well explained, so easy to understand and to follow, and I really felt like I got to know this galaxy, this universe. And I loved in the sequel getting to know a bit more about this. And yeah, it's just a really good duology. I did prefer the first book. I ended up giving the second one 3 stars because I felt like it was just lacking. Like, it was shorter than the other book, but felt a lot longer to read. And I just felt like it needed more. But overall, still a very good duology. I would recommend. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy, but very feminist, very queer, mostly women. It's just a good fun time. And the final book I read in May was A Crown of Hopes and Sorrows by Nicole Bailey. This is the second book in the Apollo Ascending series. The first book I read last month, and this is A Veil of Gods and Kings. This retells the myth of Apollo and Prince Hyacinth in ancient Greek mythology. And it is a queer fantasy historical romance. And I had a really good time with the sequel. I enjoyed it more than the first book. I gave this one 4 stars when I think I gave the first one 3. Obviously I can't go too in depth in the plot of this one because it would be spoilers for the first book, but if you missed my last wrap up or need a refresher, this follows Apollo, who is assigned to study under and work with the human prince Hyacinth by his father Zeus, to basically learn some politics, to learn to behave essentially. While studying under Hyacinth and learning from him, Apollo originally isn't very happy to be there and he likes to make life difficult. But eventually him and Hyacinth get over their differences and begin to fall in love. And you also follow a bit of Apollo's sister Artemis and Hyacinth's sister Epiphany, and they have some cool feminism things going on, some learning to hunt and things. I really enjoyed that too. And in the second book, you develop on a big reveal from the ending of the first book, which is something I was very, very intrigued by. I can't explain what it is because spoilers, but it's a perspective on mythology that I've not read about before. I've not read much Greek mythology, so it's possible other people have written about it, but it was just a period that I think would be so interesting to read about. So I enjoyed getting to see that in the sequel, and I just enjoyed the relationship developments within the sequel. I thought the character developments were a bit weak. It seemed like the relationships were the focus and the characters existed only for their relationships. and the plot I enjoyed, but our four main characters split off in twos and their stories were very, very separate, and it felt almost like reading two different books. So I would have liked to see some more connection, something to bridge the gap a bit between them. But other than that, I enjoyed it, enjoyed the book. There's actually a very emotional scene at the end that did get some tears out of me, which a book has not managed for a very long time, so I'm impressed, and that's probably the main reason I gave it a 4-star rating. I just had a really good time reading it. This series is so readable, like I sit down and I just fly through it. And I needed that, and I just really enjoyed my time reading it, more than I expected. So big thank you to Nicole Bailey for sending me this review copy. And actually, this book has a summary of book 1 at the start, and it was so helpful, even though I'd only just read the other book like less than a month ago. I need more books to have summaries of previous books in the series at the front, because I have the memory of a sieve. And I just forget everything, and then I need to reread, and I don't really have time to reread, so I put it off. But book 1 summaries, previously seen in the series summaries, I need them. Thank you. But yes, that has been all the books that I read in May. I'm hoping that June is going to be a bit of a better reading month, because I finished my job, I moved back home, I'm on holiday for a week, and it's the Whateverthon Readathon hosted by the lovely Maddie at Book Browsing Blog. I will be talking about that over on Twitter with like my TBR and progress thread, so definitely check that out if you want to see how I do with the readathon. And yes, if you've enjoyed, maybe consider leaving a like, a comment, tell me if you've read any of these books, if you want to, what did you read in May? And also, if you haven't already, please subscribe, it really means a lot. And as always, there will be links to all of these books on Goodreads down below, as well as these other videos I've mentioned, my reviews of these books where I have them, all that good stuff. And yes, thank you very, very, very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in another video soon.